The working landscape is a defining piece of what makes Wisconsin, Wisconsin. Red barns, vegetable fields, dairy and beef herds, and wooded hillsides are all part of this working landscape. Each and every one of these defining pieces of what makes Wisconsin, Wisconsin needs to remain economically viable in order to protect them for future generations. Woodlands are a critical piece of our working landscape, and because over half of Wisconsin's forests are privately owned, we need more and more private forest landowners to get involved in conducting timber sales across the state of Wisconsin. Some landowners have the perception that forest management is just for those landowners who want to make a profit off of their woodland. Although that's one reason why you may conduct a timber sale, there are many other reasons as well.
We could allow nature to take its course, but what we end up with is things that don't necessarily match human goals for the sites. We may well have a goal for wildlife habitat. We may well have an aesthetics goal. And so we want to actually manage to favor those conditions. And so what forest management allows us to do is essentially to favor the conditions we want for specific organisms. Whether it's wildlife, whether it might be plants, we favor the conditions we want based on our goals.
Timber is a tremendous resource, and I think a lot of people don't recognize that. They have a woodlot or have portions of forested land, whether they're a farmer or whether it's somebody that owns some land in northern Wisconsin and has 40 acres. They just see it as woods and don't realize the potential that it has if it's managed correctly.
I decided to manage the woodland once I bought it, and I'm a new landowner. I've only owned this for 3 years. I have a brother-in-law who is a forester, and I was telling him that I was excited about buying the land because I loved the feel of it. And he said, well, if you like the feel of it now, you need to manage it if you want it to feel the same in 20 years. So I took that to heart.
Given the size of many private landowners' properties, it may be difficult for them to conduct a timber sale on their own.
If you're not able to do this across property boundaries where you have multiple neighbors interested in sales, there's just simply not enough timber to justify bringing the equipment to the site. And so when you're able to take several small parcels and put them together and have people managing and cross property lines, you're able to generate conditions that are good for the wildlife in the area. You're able to generate enough volume from the sale to justify getting a logger to the site, and you're able to do more creative things. So I mean, I can look at this landing here as an example. This is a location where we actually decked wood so that it could be shipped. When you see it now, my opinion at least, is beautiful. You can see small aspen root sprouts coming in and back. This is normal biology, aspen root sprouts when it's cut.
So the two primary benefits that I would say that most people see directly from combining timber sales is a greater ability to market their wood. There's so many cases where small timber sales are just not marketable commercially to a logger. They're just simply too small. The other benefit, which is less of a benefit but oftentimes can be a benefit, is potentially more timber revenue from having a combined timber sale.
I decided to do a collaborative timber sale with my neighbors because I was aware that having a small parcel would be difficult to get interest in from a logger, to manage it, to cut it, and there was a project happening already on the property to the north of me. And my neighbor to the south has about 10 acres, and she has been wanting to have her property managed for a long time, but didn't have the size of a parcel to have that done. And then the property owner near her also, same deal. He wanted to manage for maple syrup. So it was very interesting for each of the three of us to have the forester mark trees with the end result in mind for each of us, which was pretty nice.
Within Golden Sands RC&D's DMAP cooperatives, we worked with neighboring landowners who were interested in conducting shared timber sales and reviewed their active forest management plans or brand new forest management plans that they just recently had written. And looked to see exactly when their forester who wrote the plan requested a scheduled harvest, so many times we'd find one landowner had a scheduled harvest in 2024 and another one in 2026, and we gave the recommendation that landowners in that case would align their timber sale so that they could be able to do it together in the year 2025. Although that we gave these recommendations to landowners, it's up to the landowners themselves to be able to reach out to their tax law specialists with the DNR and be sure that they can make these small changes to be able to align a cutting schedule with their neighbors.
When you're conducting a collaborative timber sale, I found through the course of business that the more organized the landowner group can be, the more efficient and smoothly the process runs for the forester. If in an ideal situation, if the landowner group has one contact person for the forester to communicate, broad progress updates with and broad questions with, is ideal. More detailed property specific questions are obviously going to be directed to individual property owners, but simple things like making contact to sign documents and shuffle papers is really much easier for the forester if he can rely on one point of contact for the landowner group to hand that information off to, and then they can meet with each individual landowner as they're around. It becomes really time burdensome and oftentimes is an increased cost if I have to take the extra time to, say, meet with people on different weekends because that's the only time that they're going to be around to sign contracts or approve harvest plans. If I can give that information to one landowner and he can meet with them during the weekends or whenever those other people are available, that frees up a lot of time for me and makes the process go a lot quicker and a lot smoother.
Landowner cooperatives can come in many different shapes and sizes. One organization called Partners in Forestry Landowner Cooperative serves landowners in the western side of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and also in the north central region of the Northwoods in Wisconsin. And this organization works with private landowners to be able to promote sustainable forest management on their properties.
The overwhelming benefit of a cooperative is to collect the knowledge, experience, vision, and passion from a number of people and bring that together and use it to accent each person's strong points, and together the synergy and the synergistic effect created by these different opinions and these different levels of experience and these different levels of passion, they can really be a driving force to accomplish good things.
In addition to collaborating with your neighboring landowners, you can also collaborate with landowners at a regional or statewide scale. Organizations like the Wisconsin Woodland Owners Association, or WOA, or the Wisconsin Tree Farm are a perfect example of this.
If you're in the American Tree Farm system here in Wisconsin, you're automatically part of a much larger forest community. I like to call it the forestry community here in Wisconsin. It includes all of the members in the American Tree Farm system, and there are over 38,000 landowners that are tree farmers in our program. The American Tree Farm system today encourages the practice of sustainable forestry on private lands and cooperates with other groups like the Wisconsin Woodland Owners and the Department of Natural Resources. And a big part of our program here in Wisconsin is outreach and education, helping landowners learn about forestry, sponsoring forest management workshops around the state, landowner conferences, things like that.
The main purpose of Wisconsin Woodland Owners is to help educate private woodland owners on sustainable forestry, how to manage their forests for a variety of goals. The Wisconsin Woodland Owners has also been really important, I think, in helping people network and learn from other woodland owners, provide a variety of educational experiences. So our main purpose is really to help educate private woodland owners and maintain sustainable forestry throughout the state. Again, belonging to Wisconsin Woodland Owners has been just enormously helpful for us in learning about how to manage our land, in connecting with other owners. Everybody is just very friendly and enthusiastic and more than happy to talk about their land at great length. So it's made a big difference for us in terms of how we've really been able to manage and get some funding too. We've learned about different resources that we wouldn't have had access to otherwise.
If you do not have a forest management plan written yet, we really highly encourage you to get one. You can either get a Managed Forest Law forest management plan written, which is a regulatory plan that requires you to implement certain practices on your forested property in order to qualify for tax benefits. You can also get a non-regulatory plan written for your property in which you're not required to follow out those certain steps of management that are recommended on your plan, but you have some type of foundation and guidance on what you can do to be a better steward of your property. Both can be written by a consulting forester, and you can also consider getting one written through NRCS, the Natural Resource Conservation Service.
You might have an overdense woodlot that needs to be thinned, but you don't have a management plan and you've never conducted a harvest. So we can help you write a management plan and then provide funds to go and pay a professional forester to come in and select which of these trees are going to be harvested.
Some people come to us for this conservation stewardship program, and then they got very excited about it and told all their neighbors, and all their neighbors came to us, and so it's been this kind of ricochet effect, which keeps us very busy and on our toes. But it has been able to get a lot of conservation on the landscape that way, and really the neighbors are our best advocates. So if they're happy with our program and they want to tell their neighbors, and your neighbors are going to be honest about it, so that's a good place to start.
Some tree planting in an area that didn't have traditionally trees. It was basically just an old field that really had nothing. There was no pollinator habitat there, and it was a nice site that we were able to go in and plant 5 different woody species. We put tubes on to protect them, and so we're going to give that a try, and we're in the 2nd year of that, and the trees are already coming out of the tubes, which is great. Developing that good relationship with your NRCS staff really helps out a lot because they can tell you the practices that will apply for what you want to do.
If you want to learn more, we encourage you to visit Golden Sands RC&D's website, where we have full-length interviews and links to additional resources. We hope this video series has inspired you to get involved in cooperative efforts that you may have not thought of before. Cooperation is an essential element to success. There is no exception to this when it comes to the stewardship of your own property. Wisconsin landowners can be so much more successful in managing their property's forest resources, controlling invasive plants, and creating better wildlife habitat through cooperation. We hope that we get to cooperate with you to make Wisconsin a better place to live and work in the future. Thank you.